All right, so we're going to look into this situation in Bihar's Banka district.
Yeah,
It's kind of unexpected, isn't it?
definitely.
It was around April 9th, 2025. You know, a seemingly quiet area.
Right.
Suddenly there's this fatal encounter.
A violent incident.
Yeah, in the Kalothar forest.
The Kalothar forest.
So we're diving deep into this.
Absolutely.
What happened to Ramesh Tudu?
Sometimes known as Tedua.
Yeah, also known as Tedua.
Uh-huh.
And we're looking at what the news reports tell us.
Yeah, using those news reports.
And, you know, it's not just a local thing.
Right, it goes beyond that.
This kind of opens a window into a much bigger situation that's happening in parts of India.
That's ongoing.
Yeah, this has been going on for a while.
For sure.
What strikes me is the contrast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we think of a forest,
Right.
and it's like this place of calm, you know.
Tranquility, nature.
Yeah, natural calm.
Peace.
Exactly.
But then you have this reality that it becomes a setting for a violent death.
Yeah.
Really highlights...
It's jarring.
It is. It's jarring.
Yeah, it is.
That these conflicts can just erupt in these unexpected places.
Absolutely. So picture the Kalothar forest.
Okay.
Under the jurisdiction of the Katoria police station.
Yeah.
It's dense, it's green, it's an environment.
And you'd imagine a forest to be.
Yeah, a typical forest.
Yeah.
But on this day,
Right.
it becomes the location where this 35-year-old man,
Okay.
Ramesh Tudu, he loses his life.
Tragic.
It is tragic.
Yeah,
And he had a significant bounty on his head,
that's right.
a lakh of rupees.
1 lakh rupees. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's not a small amount.
No, it's not.
That says something.
It says a lot.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
And he was identified as this self-proclaimed Maoist commander
Okay.
wanted by the authorities.
In multiple places, it seems.
Yeah, in both Bihar and Jharkhand.
Okay. Across state lines.
Yeah, neighboring states.
Yeah.
For serious disruptive activities.
So he was a known figure.
Yeah, he was on their radar for sure.
Definitely not a minor player.
No, not at all.
Huh.
That bounty alone, like you said, it tells you something.
It really does. A reward of that size
Yeah.
indicates he was a high priority target
Definitely.
for the government.
Yeah.
Someone they believed was significantly,
Impacting things.
impacting their efforts to maintain order in the region.
For sure, for sure. So how did this deadly encounter actually happen?
Yeah. How did it unfold?
So from what we gather,
Okay.
the police got a tip-off
Okay.
that Tudu was in the Kalothar forest.
So they had actionable intelligence.
Yeah, and they acted on it.
They did.
Now, you can imagine the scene.
I'm trying to picture it.
Katoria police,
Okay.
led by the SHO Arvind Rai.
Hmm.
And SHO, by the way, is like the officer in charge of the station.
Okay, yeah.
They mobilized, they got their forces together.
Right. Got to respond to this tip.
Yeah, they headed into the forest.
Into the Kalothar forest.
Into the Kalothar forest. They probably anticipated some resistance.
Yeah. I mean, with a figure like this.
Yeah, a wanted man.
With a bounty on his head. Yeah.
Yeah, but it turned lethal pretty quickly.
It escalated quickly.
It did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just him alone either.
Okay, so he wasn't by himself?
No, he wasn't isolated.
Who was he with?
Reports say he was with associates.
Okay, so a group.
Yeah, it seems like it.
That's common, isn't it?
Yeah, operating in small groups.
Right.
It's typical.
Because that fits.
Yeah.
Allows them to move easily.
Especially in terrain like this.
Yeah. Dense forests.
It's hard to track.
Hard to trap, hard to find.
Yeah, for sure.
So they were prepared.
Yeah.
It seems like they were ready for a confrontation.
They opened fire right away.
Wow. So no hesitation?
No, as soon as they encountered the police,
Okay. They were ready. They weren't going down without a fight.
they were not messing around.
No.
So this initial gunfire
Right.
led to an exchange.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
A firefight.
And sadly, Ramesh Tudu was fatally wounded.
Okay.
Police, they moved fast.
To get him medical attention.
They tried to save him.
Right.
They got him to the government referral hospital
Okay.
in Katoria,
All right.
but he was declared dead on arrival.
So despite their efforts,
It was too late,
too late.
but this wasn't the end of it.
It wasn't.
No.
What happened next?
Tudu's associates,
Right. The other people he was with,
yeah, they got away.
they escaped
They escaped into the forest.
into that dense forest.
Yeah, between Booty Ghat and Kalothar.
Right, right.
And that triggered a whole search operation.
Of course. Got to try to find them.
Yeah, the police were on it.
I bet that was a tough search.
Oh, yeah, that terrain.
Dense forest, hard to navigate,
It's not easy.
not easy at all.
No,
So they got away.
they did.
They managed to evade capture.
Yeah,
And that really shows you the challenges
it does.
that the security forces face in
Yeah.
these kinds of situations.
Absolutely. And
That natural cover.
it works in their favor.
Yeah, the dense forest difficult access.
It gives them an advantage,
It does.
especially when they know the area.
Right. They're familiar with it.
And they're determined to escape.
And they don't want to get caught.
No, they don't.
So this ongoing search,
Right.
it's a reminder, isn't it?
Yeah, what is it a reminder of?
That even when they get someone like Tudu,
Yeah.
a significant figure,
Right.
the
Underlying network.
Right. And its capacity for action,
It may still be there.
it might still be there.
Yeah, it might still be operational.
It could be
Yeah, it's a complex situation.
very complex.
So let's look into who Ramesh Tudu was.
Okay.
He was identified as an area commander
Okay.
for the CPI Maoist.
CPI Maoist.
Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar,
Right. Not everyone knows about them.
the Maoists, also called Naxals,
Uh-huh.
they're a left-wing extremist movement
Okay.
in certain parts of India.
Sure region.
Yeah, and they use armed struggle.
They believe in that.
Yeah, it's part of their ideology.
Hmm.
And Tudu, he was a key figure.
In their operations.
Yeah, in their local operations.
Okay, so he was important to them.
Definitely important.
Locally, at least.
Yeah, at least locally.
So the CPI Maoist,
Right.
they've been around for a while.
Yeah, they had.
Their history goes back decades.
Yeah.
And their ideology centers on advocating for marginalized communities.
Okay, so who are they talking about?
Farmers, villagers,
Okay.
people they believe are being exploited,
Right.
denied their rights.
So they see themselves as fighting for them?
Yeah, they claim to represent them,
Okay.
and they often point to issues like land rights.
Okay, so land ownership.
Yeah, and economic inequality.
Okay, so they're saying the system's not fair
Right. They see those as key drivers.
of their movement,
Yeah, of their whole movement.
but their methods.
Yeah, how they go about it
Well, we see it here, don't we?
in this instance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's violence. It's armed conflict.
That's their approach.
That's how they operate.
Sadly.
Sadly, yeah. So Tudu's background,
Okay, where did he come from?
he came from Budigat village
Okay.
in Banka district.
All right, so the same area
Yeah, where this happened.
as the encounter.
Yeah.
So he was local
He was local to the area.
to that region.
Yeah, but his influence wasn't just there.
He wasn't limited to just that district.
Well, it went beyond.
Okay, where else?
He had all these cases against him
Okay, like what?
in Jamui district,
Okay, another district.
specifically Chandramandi and Chakai police stations,
All right, so multiple police stations.
and then across the border in Jharkhand.
Okay, so multiple states?
11 cases in Deoghar and Gasiti districts.
Wow, so he was active
Yeah.
across a wide area.
Yeah, this suggests a lot, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests a significant,
Involvement.
involvement in illegal activities.
Yeah, for a while.
Over time.
And across a considerable area.
Yeah, it wasn't just a one-off thing.
No, not at all.
So his area of operation,
Right.
crossing state borders,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
It is.
It's typical of this Maoist presence
Right?
in what they call the Red Corridor.
The Red Corridor.
These are regions
Yeah.
often characterized by certain challenges.
Like what kind of challenges?
Just your economic challenges.
Okay, so problems with the economy?
Poverty, lack of opportunity,
Right.
and historically, Maoist groups have found support there.
Okay, so they've been able to establish themselves.
Yeah, they've established strongholds.
Okay, so they have a presence there.
They do.
And the number of cases against Tudu
Right. All those cases.
across all those police jurisdictions.
It really points to his deep involvement.
Yeah, and it was ongoing.
He was really involved.
For sure.
Yeah.
And like we said, the government considered him a major threat,
Oh, yeah, that's clear.
hence the reward.
That 1 lakh rupee reward,
Yeah.
it shows how determined they were
To capture him,
to apprehend him.
to get him. Yeah. And he was armed during the encounter.
He was.
Yeah, he was found with a carbine.
A carbine, what's that?
It's a kind of rifle,
Okay.
lightweight.
Easy to handle.
Yeah, easy to handle.
Interesting.
And that's significant, isn't it?
It is. It suggests he was operationally engaged,
Yeah.
meaning he was likely
Involved in the activities?
directly participating in armed activities.
Yeah, not just a leader
Right. He was on the ground.
who was in the field.
Yeah.
And then we have confirmation from Banka SP,
SP. What's that?
Superintendent of Police,
Okay. Like a police chief.
Upendra Nath Verma.
Okay. So he confirmed something?
Yeah, he confirmed Tudu's importance.
To the Naxal network.
So the government was right
It seems so.
to consider him
But
significant.
they were right to target him.
Yeah, they were right to go after him.
So this event in the Kalothar forest,
Right.
it's dramatic,
It is.
but it's not happening in a vacuum.
No, it's not an isolated incident.
It's part of something bigger
It's part of this much larger conflict.
with the Maoist groups
Yeah, in different parts of India.
across the country.
This has been going on for a while.
A persistent challenge.
Yeah, for the government
And a source of instability
in these regions.
for many years.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a complex issue.
It is
with deep roots
deep roots in what?
in social, economic,
Okay.
political factors.
It's all intertwined.
It is. It's all connected.
Yeah.
And while the Maoists claim they're
Right.
representing the interests of these marginalized groups,
The people they say they're fighting for.
or farmers, the villagers,
Right.
their use of violence,
Yeah.
it directly challenges the state.
The authority of the government.
It creates this cycle
A cycle of conflict.
with consequences
Consequences for everyone.
for the people living in these areas.
Absolutely. And they say their fight
Right, according to them.
is for these communities.
Marginalized communities.
The farmers, the villagers,
Oh, they believe are being exploited.
denied their rights.
Yeah.
They frame it as a struggle
For justice.
and equality,
Right. That's their narrative.
but they use violence,
They do
armed confrontation.
against the government.
Yeah, that's their method.
So we have these different narratives.
We do.
It's important to see that they present themselves as fighting for the oppressed,
Right.
but the government sees them differently
As what?
as insurgents,
Okay.
as people who undermine the law
Okay.
and hinder development.
So two very different views.
Yeah, opposing perspectives
And understanding those.
without necessarily agreeing with either.
Right, without taking sides.
It's key to grasping the complexity.
Yeah, absolutely. So the government's response,
Okay, what do they do?
it's a combination of things.
Okay, like what?
Security operations,
Deploying force.
gathering intelligence,
Right,
and then incentives.
like the reward.
Yeah, financial rewards.
You get information.
Encourage people to come forward.
And help capture key individuals.
Like Tudu
Yeah.
and the impact on the local population
Right, the people living there.
in places like Banka, Jamui, Jharkhand.
It's significant.
It is this kind of violence
It disrupts life.
in so many ways.
Yeah, how so?
They mentioned school closures,
Oh, wow, so kids can't go to school.
general safety concerns.
People are afraid.
People are living in fear.
A climate of fear.
A climate of instability.
It's a tough situation.
It is. It's a tough situation.
And it's the ordinary citizens
Yeah.
who suffer the most.
They bear the brunt of it.
Yeah,
It's sad.
it is. These conflicts, they're
Mhm.
often framed in these ideological terms,
Right.
but they have real costs
Real human costs.
for the people living there.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that.
It is.
So, to sum it up,
Okay, let's recap.
we had a tip-off.
Leading to the police finding Tudu.
In the Kalothar forest,
Right.
a firefight broke out.
Gunfire exchanged.
Tudu was killed.
Fatally wounded.
His associates got away.
They escaped.
A search is underway.
Trying to find them.
Tudu was a significant figure
A commander.
for the CPI Mao,
The Maoists.
with a long history of involvement
In illegal activity.
across multiple districts,
Multiple states even.
and a bounty on his head,
A substantial bounty.
the 1 lakh rupees.
And that carbine they found.
It all points to the seriousness
It really does.
of this whole situation.
Yeah, it's a complex situation.
It is.
It really is.
What's fascinating to me
Mm-hmm.
is how this one event,
This one incident
it encapsulates so many layers
of the conflict.
of this bigger conflict.
What do you mean?
The remote setting,
The Kalothar forest.
the intelligence, the security forces,
Working together.
the Maoist ideology,
Their beliefs.
their violent actions,
How they
the
operate.
government's response.
Trying to contain them.
It's all there in this one event.
It's a microcosm
It is. It's like a microcosm.
of the larger conflict.
This whole situation in Banka's Kalothar forest,
It's really
it gives us a lot to think about.
It does.
The authorities will probably see this as a win,
As a victory.
but the underlying issues,
The root causes.
they're still there.
They haven't gone away.
No, they haven't.
And it makes you wonder,
It does. It makes you think.
how is Tudu seen?
Yeah, how do people view him?
Different segments of society,
Is he a dangerous criminal
like the government says.
or a rebel fighting for a cause?
Like his ideology suggests.
And what does this tell us about the future
of this conflict?
of this long-standing conflict in the region?
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say what will happen.
Yeah.
It brings up a really important point
What's that?
about perspective
Okay.
and how it shapes our understanding.
Of these complex situations.
Depending on who's telling the story,
Right.
interpretations can vary so much.
They can be completely different.
Recognizing those different viewpoints,
It's essential
even if we don't agree with them.
to have a nuanced understanding.
Yeah, to see the whole picture.
The complexities.
Thanks for joining us
My pleasure.
for this deep dive into the events in Bihar.
It has been fascinating.
It's clear that this incident
While it happened in a specific place,
is part of a much bigger pattern.
a larger conflict.
In India.
A conflict that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
It encourages us to look deeper.
Beyond the headlines,
to understand the history
the social and economic factors,
that contribute to these conflicts,
and to consider all the different perspectives
of everyone involved.
It's something to keep thinking about.
Absolutely.
We encourage you to explore these issues further.
Yeah, do some research.
And until our next deep dive,
See you then.
keep questioning and keep learning.
Great advice.